After hello, welcome, patient viewers. We had some technical difficulties there. Happy New Year to those of you who have not said this to yet. And welcome to Simon no茶の間show. And to those listening after the fact, welcome to the Lone Star Under the Rising Sun podcast. There, I got my 2 cents win. And I'd like to welcome my guest, and he will shortly welcome me because I'm appearing on his podcast. This is Shay Roberts of the Lone Star Under the Rising Sun podcast. Take it away, Shay.
Okay. Hello, everybody. As Simon said, my name is Shay. I am the host of the Lone Star Under the Rising Sun podcast on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud.
Oh God,
all that stuff. So anyway,
I'm a bit behind. I'm a bit behind. I'm just on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Well, no worries, no worries. You just gotta spread it out, spread the message out there. But anyway, yeah. Happy New Year, everyone. So this will be episode number 18. I'm interviewing Simon. He's interviewing me. So it's a joint podcast. So hopefully there won't be any technical difficulties as we had before the show started. Right?
Well, yes.
Yeah. It's just a sign that I need a new headset. This one's quite old, so
we didn't put that on your Christmas.
New year, new headset, right? So
I'd just like to say hello to Daniel, to Mrs. Carrie D. I know you are. Karina. Who else? Remy, Natalie, Frederick, and Radri.
All right. Well, hello everybody. So, anyways, Simon, thanks for having me on.
Well, and likewise. Yes, it's been a while since. I mean, the last time I think you were on one of my shows, I was wearing a top hat and sunglasses.
I think so. Yeah. I've sporadically appeared on your old show, The Three Old Dudes, and I think I actually had a guest spot early on that show.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you for having me on, and thank you for coming onto my show as well. So, would you like to go ahead and start? We'll start with you. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Radri knows, and perhaps people in the audience know, so long-time viewers that know who you are and where you're from. But who are you and where are you from?
Okay.
Why are you in Japan?
Yeah. Well. If you haven't caught on by now, my name is Shay. I am originally from America in the state of Texas, hence the name Lone Star Under the Rising Sun. I've been in Japan for about 10 years now. This year was my 10-year anniversary, and
wow.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah. And for those on my show who are unfamiliar with you, please introduce yourself.
Well. Welcome. Welcome. Hello, I should say to the listeners of Shay's podcast. My name is Simon, formerly Simon Three Old Dudes of Three Old Dudes Show, and currently Simon no茶の間, which is a name that was given to me by one of my friends in Tokyo as the name for the show. I have been living in Belgium for 20 years. I'm English. I moved here in 1996. 22 years, my God. And I've been on YouTube since about 2013. Initially just making kind of vlogs and videos and not getting very far with that. And then all of a sudden I discovered live streaming. Thanks to now a friend, but then a YouTuber called Comical Rainer, who I was just talking to this morning. She was asking me parental advice, she's having to deal with her son, who's 8 or 9 years older now, and is getting.
Yeah, he's quite a lot older. Yeah. If you know, yeah, Reina, she's been following her for a long time too. So it's nice to see how she's doing and her family growing up like that. So
yeah, she's not doing so much YouTube anymore because her work has taken her away from that. She now actually does online English teaching to Japanese people, and the business has taken off. So she hasn't got really time to do YouTube, but I still keep in touch with her. Yeah,
well, good for her. Wish her all success for that. So, so Simon, I have a question. Actually, I never knew this this answer, so I'd like to ask you, what actually originally got you interested in Japan in the first place? Because you don't live in Japan.
I don't live in Japan.
No.
This lady here,
Yeah, I see her.
and this lady here,
Yes.
and I don't have a picture of them, but a particular Japanese band. And it wasn't until the age of 45, actually, that I came across this band. And prior to that, I had no specific interest in Japan whatsoever. But I happened to come across this band, and as like most people who are not familiar with Japan, who only know sort of like the mainstream things about it, it's this exotic country in the east that have strange things happen there, strange and cool things happen there. One of the strange and cool things that I found about was young women playing hardcore rock and roll punk. So,
quite a lot of that here, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't quite happen much anywhere else, and it was like, wow, this is cool. I want to find out more about these, and of course, when you go on YouTube and do that sort of thing, YouTube sort of throws up recommendations for you. Japan this, Japan that, and it all sort of snowballed from there. The microphone has seen better days, says Nosh Abroad.
Yeah. I apologize for any interference on my part. So
yes, you have to keep perfectly still, Shay.
Yes, I will be a statue. I will not move.
It's a podcast, so you know. So it doesn't.
Well, that's the entire medium of which people will be taking in this information, and it sounds like shit on this episode. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, sorry. Bradley's asking me if am I punk? Do I look punk? No. It was like rockabilly punk, and no, I wasn't rockabilly punk, but I mean, and you know, young Japanese, well, they were at the time when they started. They're now about my age and still going, but yes, they didn't look particularly punk. It's like rock and roll. It's more rock and roll than punk, but you know, rockabilly punk.
Right. Well, that's cool. That's a very interesting way to gain an interest in Japan. You know, a lot of people have, you know, different introductions to Japanese culture and whatever, you know, either through some sort of media, you know, animation or movies, or in your case it was music, though. So that's,
yeah, I mean, that was the trigger, if you like, that got me, you know, I thought, wow, I mean, Japan must be sort of slightly more interesting than I thought it was if it produces this kind of thing. And then with the YouTube recommendations that were coming up, I came across Kurt Bell, of course, because I was curious about, you know, Japanese countryside, and that led me on. Obviously, Kurt was then involved with Mully and all that crowd, and so all those recommendations came up, and that led eventually to Rainer, and Rainer was starting to doing these live hangouts, which I then really enjoyed, because, I mean, we're not doing it too much now, but there was a lot of interaction with the audience, and it was nice sort of talking to the person on the screen. I mean, she's Japanese, but she lives in Canada, so there wasn't a direct Japan connection there. But as I say, the recommendations are coming up, and I started subscribing to these other channels and becoming more and more interested. And that led from one thing to another, really.
You kind of went down a Japan rabbit hole on YouTube. It's easy to do on YouTube, just go down these different rabbit holes, you know. So
yeah. And so what, I mean, I'll throw the question right back at you. Probably your podcasters have heard all this before. You could maybe sum it up in a sentence. Then what made you interested in Japan and want to go there?
Well, yeah, I have talked about it before, but basically to boil it down is I had an interest in it since I was just a kid, you know. I think the very first introduction to anything Japanese was a comic slash animation in America. It's actually still quite popular, but when I was a young kid, it was really popular with the boys. Is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So,
oh right,
ninjas.
The original comic version.
Yeah. So, and there was like a late '80s, early '90s animation that came on, and I was right at the age where I saw cool weapons and fighting. I got hooked on it. So,
so you came to Japan to see if the turtles really existed.
That was the initial, but it grew. Really, it just grew into like the medieval Japanese culture. I saw the samurai and the ninja, and I thought, well, that's cool. That's something I don't really know much about living in.
Oh, your microphone's gone again. Tap your head. Wiggle your wire. Do something. Switch to toilet mic.
Okay, let's try that then.
Okay, we're now on toilet microphone. It just makes him sound like he's in the toilet, but there we go.
All right, sorry everybody. I'll have to be broadcasting from a toilet tonight. Yeah. Well, anyway, but you can at least hear me clearly without all the interference. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. There's no more crackling or loss of loss of
yeah,
sound.
I would rather sound like I'm in an echoey toilet than make the ears of my audience and your audience bleed. So
Okay.
Anyways, where did I leave off? Oh, so basically, it was just so different than what I was accustomed to as a kid that it was just a fascinating culture, and it just seemed very far and distant. So that's where the interest grew, and I never really got into like Japanese animation or comics or anything like that. I played a lot of video games as a kid, so I was exposed to more of the culture through that. But I think even when I was a kid, I just said, yeah, someday I'd like to go there, and it just sort of manifested itself over the years. And it was never like an obsession though. It was just sort of in the back of my mind. And when I graduated from university, I just thought, well, now's the perfect opportunity to try it out. So I did.
Yeah. I got divorced. That was my perfect opportunity.
however way we can come to the same goals. Yeah. So, so you're a long-term expat in a different country than where you're from.
Yeah.
What interested you in Belgium, and why have you chosen to stay there for 20 years?
Well, I mean, I shall probably offend all Belgians now, but I had no interest in Belgium prior to the age of about 28. And then I met a Belgian woman and started a relationship. And that was what basically led me to move to Belgium after she came to stay with me for a couple of years. And that worked out fine, except for the sort of the social life, because we lived in a remote country area and there wasn't any. So she got a bit, frustrated and ended up going back to Belgium, and I followed. Basically, I had no, other than being with her, I had no deep interest in the country. I mean, since then I've explored it and learned a lot about it. I shall use the wonder of my my apps, and I shall go to this background. There we have the various countries of which I am fond or from or have explored. The hills in the background there, that's just up behind my parents' house in England.
Wow. Yeah.
This bridge with all those like Gothic buildings and whatnot, that's Ghent, which is about half an hour down the road by car from me. And here we have Japan. This is in Yamaguchi. It's the Mori Gardens in Yamaguchi. So
okay. Now, how many times have you traveled to Japan yourself?
Now 4 times. consecutively, sort of each year. I've been.
Okay. And you most recently came last year, correct?
Yes, November last year was my fourth visit. Yeah.
And how long were you in Japan?
3 weeks this time. That was the longest I've been. All the previous visits have been 2 weeks, but this time I wanted to make it a bit longer. It takes a lot of saving up of overtime to do that, but it's worth it.
Yeah, and Japan's not a country you can just see everything in one go. You need as you said, at least 4 times, weeks at a time, and you still haven't really even touched the surface, So.
Yes, you're in Tochigi, and I mean that's how many hours away from? A couple of hours away from Tokyo.
Yeah, about for a train ride, probably about an hour and a half. Car, about the same. If you take the Shinkansen, the bullet train, it's about 45 minutes or so.
Oh right. Oh, that's not so bad. Oh, well, next time.
100 kilometers or so. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, because I've just basically stuck to the classic golden route, because most of the people I know and in contact with live along that route. The furthest I got was Yamaguchi, and that's beyond Hiroshima. Right before Kyushu. So visiting. I can't go. Yeah, visiting this lady.
You got to figure out where to put it. So, to those who are just listening, Simon has some very lovely pictures of the 3 countries he is closest to, right?
In mind and body, yeah.
in mind and body. So, have you been to any other countries other than just like a layover, like for any length of time?
Tobago. I went for like a couple of weeks long ago with my parents and sister and girlfriend. That was quite interesting. I've been to Italy for about 2 weeks. France, obviously. I mean, that's just like get in the car in a couple of hours and it's away. But I mean, I went to France when I was at art college in England, and we did a trip to Paris. So that was my first trip to France.
Right.
Germany. Went to Caffeine Jedi's wedding in Germany. That was nice. And been to Switzerland for about a day. Anyway, Frederick, I've been to Switzerland.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you at least say hi to Frederick?
Well, yeah, this was long before I knew Frederick. So yeah.
I see. So you were there in spirit, right? So
hello, Englandese, my friend from Yamaguchi. He's in the house. Hello.
Oh, yeah. I went to Yamaguchi about 9 years ago or so. To Hiroshima, Yamaguchi. I went to Iwakuni only though. In Yamaguchi.
Yeah.
Very nice bridges.
Oh yeah,
the samurai family bridge. Yeah.
Kintai Bridge and all that. I've not seen that. My girlfriend was I call her my girlfriend. She's my friend actually. It's come back to that. But she was going to take me there, but it never happened. I think it got damaged actually, didn't it? It got damaged in the hurricane or whatever it was. The typhoon.
I'm not sure. I haven't been there in almost 10 years, but I would imagine a strong typhoon might damage it, right? So, a couple of things I wanted to ask. I've talked to a lot of expats on the show, not necessarily Japan, but I wanted to get your thoughts on when you first moved to a different country, Belgium. And what was the biggest struggles that you had moving to a new country, and then 2, your very first time you came to Japan, what that experience was like.
Well, moving to Belgium, that was luckily. I mean, I was, not single. I was in a relationship, but and the other half was going to Belgium, so I had nobody I was having to leave. We were not married, had no children, obviously at that point, and there was my family, but I was living in the far north of the area where I'm from in England, and it was like an hour and a half drive to visit my parents, for example. So I didn't really see them very often either. So in terms of connections, I wasn't cutting a lot of ties or anything. So in that sense, going to a new country wasn't wasn't so difficult. I didn't have a lot of stuff to take with me. I think we borrowed her parents have a business that I was employed, or I am still employed at, and they had a van, and it was just not a particularly big van, but it was enough to fill with all the stuff that I possessed that I wanted to take. So that was quite easy, sort of driving down the motorway with that.
Right.
So in general terms, it wasn't I mean, Belgium itself is not. I mean, there are lots of differences. The language and the history and so on are different to England, but it's basically Northwest Europe, and they've got supermarkets, and you can get pretty much English style food and whatnot. So
wasn't too much of a culture shock.
No, not really. I mean, it was quite easy to sort of fit in.
Well, that's good, and you wouldn't still be there after 20 years if you didn't enjoy living there.
I mean, I obviously got married here, so I was kind of like, can't say, right, sorry, dear, I'm going to live in England now and again. So I stay here. Very quickly after getting married, we had children, so that's another reason to stay, and the main reason I have continued to stay, really. I love my sons, and so I don't really want to sort of leave them behind, kind of thing, until they've flown the nest of their own accord. So yes, that's why I'm still here. Now, as for the other question about Japan, that's my first experience going to Japan. That was quite something, really. You can't really see the lady in the photograph, sort of, who's holding up a glass of wine. That's an actress, and various circumstances led me to contact this Japanese actress, and she said in one of her private messages to me, "If you ever come to Japan, I'll buy you dinner." So, like, okay, right. Yeah. Motivation number one, and then
can't say no to that, right?
And motivation number two was the other lady who had been introduced to by an American friend on Facebook, and she said, "This is my pen friend, So, and she said, please come and see me." So I thought, okay, right, I'll see how much it costs, and I had some savings, and luckily for me, just at that time, the All Nippon Airways had just reinstated direct flights, and as a means of from Belgium to Japan, and they had a special offer, so I sort of, I grabbed that, and it was a very wonderful event. They had like taiko drummers and all kinds of events going on. They had the director of Brussels Airways and the director of All Nippon Airways and Miss Nippon and all these kind of things going on. Lots of things to eat and drink while you were waiting for your plane. So it was quite spectacular, really. It's like, oh, I must be destined to go to Japan or something.
Yeah.
And then I got there, and I actually met up with. She's not really active on YouTube much anymore. Legit Outlaw Jess, you may have heard of her. And some of the people in the audience will know who she is. She's an American woman who's living near Fujisawa, and she said, "Oh yeah, you can come and stay with stay with me if you need somewhere to sort of crash." So that was the first place I went to in Japan. It was near the Atsugi Air Base in Fujisawa, staying in a rather nice detached house in a spare room. And my first experience in Japan, other than landing at the airport and getting the train into Tokyo and then getting the train to Fujisawa, was getting off the train to Fujisawa and stepping out of the station, and there was my friend just pulling up at the traffic lights. That was great. That was a coincidence. Got in.
Yeah.
We went,
timing.
Yeah. So what do you want to eat? And I said, I don't know. Let's something Japanese. So she took me to a kaiten sushi, and that was the start of a wonderful 2 weeks.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you had a just very nice, easing into into the country.
Yeah. So what was it? I mean, to throw it right back at you, you like discovered that the Ninja Turtles didn't really exist. That that like medieval Japan was buried under concrete. And so, what was your first experience of?
Well, yeah, I'd originally come just to stay. I planned to just stay about a year. You know, I just wanted
oh,
to.
Right. So not just like I'm going to. You didn't visit in advance. You just
no. Yeah, it was actually a lot of firsts for me. It was my first time, other than Mexico, to visit a foreign country, and it was my first time to live in a foreign country, and it was many firsts. So I came in almost blind, and I did that on purpose because I wanted the challenge. You know, everyone I talked to at home thought I was a little bit crazy. They're like, okay, have you studied the language at all? I go, just a few words. And they said, do you know anyone over there? I was like, personally, no, I don't know anybody. And they said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'll figure it out when I get there.
Wow.
And actually, I had no apprehension, no fear. I just knew that it was something that I wanted and needed to do. And yeah, when the very first time I got off, I wouldn't say the airplane, because airport's an airport, you know, even Narita is kind of just like any other airport, you know. But once I got off the train, out of the train station to the guest house I was staying in for training for my job, that's when it hit me, getting into the taxi and just seeing the city that I was in. I was like, you know, I think I was 23 at the time. And I just thought, wow, this is so different than what I'm used to, a small town in Texas to this, you know?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And everything was just new. I was, you know, taking pictures of mundane things now that seem very mundane to me at the time were just so new that, you know, I was taking pictures of it, you know.
Yeah, there was no Instagram filters then.
yeah, this was, I mean, God, I was still, it was a digital camera. It wasn't a disposable. I did have a disposable camera, a Kodak I bought from a Walmart, but I did have a digital camera as backup. So, and my very first Japanese cell phone this is even before smartphones. It was a flip phone.
Oh yeah, you still got that? Have you still got it?
Yeah, well, yeah, they call them in Japan. They call them garake. It's like Galapagos Keitai, which is like Galapagos mobile phone, but just means really, really old style mobile phone. But yeah, that thing was tough. I remember I was riding my bicycle down the street once, and it flew out of my pocket, and it just shattered all over the street. And I thought, oh fuck, my phone's gone, you know. And I picked up all the bits and pieces, put them together, and it turned on, and it was fully functional. Like, wow, it had a lot of scratches and scars, and the paint was flaked off, but it worked. So,
oh, cool. I mean, because one of the things in Japan is one of the cultural things is people have the uchi and the soto, and they'll have the smartphone for the soto, and they'll keep the flip phone for the uchi.
Actually, I never heard of that. But it makes sense. Yeah, I know. A lot of it's generational too. A lot of older people still use the flip phones, and you know, some use smartphones, but yeah, it's mostly
yeah. So I see quite a lot of them, you know, wandering around with it, you know, and then I'll see them get the smartphone out. So they're doing their sort of like the online contacts there,
right.
And then like sort of like offline contacts are on.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I kind of sometimes would like to go back to the flip phone because, you know, there's less distractions. You know, you don't have any cool apps that you can distract yourself with. You know, it's actually kind of keeps you more in the present moment. But I use my phone for business so much that it's tethered to me no matter what. So it's kind of, I have to use my smartphone in order to run the businesses and stuff, you know.
I'm just saying hello to some future guests who have just arrived or one of two future guests who has arrived.
Great. So yeah, that's another thing. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your old show. and how it transitioned to what you're doing now. So you said you started doing like vlogs and stuff on YouTube, and that didn't really...
Well, I say vlogs. I mean, I'm not really a vlogger. I mean, although it doesn't seem this way, I'm got my mug in front of the camera and I'm blabbing away. I don't really like to do that on the street with holding a camera. I did make. I mean, Comical Rainer, as I mentioned before, there was like a little community that grew up of followers, and they all encouraged each other to sort of go out and make YouTube videos. So I decided to do the same, and I'd been watching what people did on the J-Vlog thing, where they go out and say, "Hey guys," everybody says "Hey guys" on YouTube, and so I tried doing that. And I got about two or three sentences out saying, "Hey guys, I'm here," and then shut up and filmed just where I was going, and then edited it together and put music in and got about 20 views each time. So that's when that's
something though. If you're just starting out, 20 views is quite nice.
Hey guys, says Remy.
See, that's something. When I very first started doing YouTube, I didn't do vlogs. I did like language learning reviews. I would do reviews for different books. And I think I made my first YouTube video, well, official YouTube video. It's gone now, but I guess 8 years ago now, more than 8 years ago. And I was reviewing a Japanese language book, and I put it up and I just forgot about it. And about a year and a half later, I just go back to YouTube and I checked out my channel, and it had like a few hundred views. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. I didn't even put any effort into it. I didn't put any tags or anything. And I mean, the YouTube algorithm was very different then, but I just thought, well, why not just keep going? Why not make another one, right? And that's kind of how, and then that's how kind of got into the whole Japan YouTube thing was that. And then I started checking out others, and when I actually sat down and tried to do vlogs, I always felt really awkward about it. You're like, "Hey guys," and then you start talking, and I would just try and go off the cuff. Some of them I would plan, but I didn't really write anything out. And man, some of those old videos of mine, I was like stuttering.
Going to your channel. I remember, back in the days of Three Old Dudes. We'll get back to that, but that was when you had Shay in Japan was the name of your channel at that time, and you had a massive videos. Going off here and there and exploring places. They've all seemed to have disappeared. I can't find them anywhere.
Okay. So there's a reason for that. I felt after a while, like I even had some videos that got a lot of hits, but it was nothing. I wouldn't say none of my videos were authentic. A lot of them were, but I found myself making videos just to try and get hits and clicks and whatnot. And it didn't feel authentic to me, and I didn't want that. I wanted something unique. I didn't want to be like any other vlogger or whatever. Nothing wrong with those people, but there's only so many. Look what tasty thing I found at the convenience store I can eat now. Like there's only so many of those videos you can watch before it just gets, you're just spinning wheels, and people see that all the time. So I had to really look in and reflect, and like, okay, what do I really want to do, and why am I doing it? So I kind of I looked at some of the videos of mine that didn't necessarily get the most hits, but the ones that resonated deeply with me, the ones that I was really being true to myself on, and those were just helping people, because people would ask me questions about how I either learned Japanese or came to Japan or whatever, and I thought, okay, that's what I really liked doing was just helping people out. And so I decided to just wipe it all and start fresh
Oh wow!
And
You really sort of got rid of them completely.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I not only did I delete them from my channel, I deleted the raw file. I mean, like I went cold turkey, and part of me kind of regrets it, just because I'd like to go back and not even re-upload them, but just kind of look and how far I've come on YouTube, or just making videos, because God, I was awful. I'm not I'm not good now.
Yeah.
And I look back, 4 or 5, 6 years ago, I thought I was even worse then. So, but in doing this, it's actually helped me a lot with speaking and whatnot. So I wouldn't say it's a total waste, but yeah, that's I wanted to be more authentic, and I've always found that I feel more comfortable just behind a microphone than a camera. I don't mind being in front of a camera, but it's just more comfortable for me using the voice instead of awkwardly looking at where's the camera now.
Well, I mean, you kept a couple of videos. One's with Kevin, and you still go out and film with Kevin. For those in the audience who don't know, Kevin Crocker, a Canadian chap, also living not far from Shay, makes videos and makes a living also doing voice acting. Or at least tries to make a living voice acting. Has a very sort of very typical. And Radri has mentioned that you, Shay, have the ideal podcast voice. So I mean, has it crossed your mind to maybe go into kind of voice acting, that kind of thing?
I've actually done a voice acting gig last year. It was my first paid voice acting gig. It's for a Japanese car parts company. It aired on local television here for a few weeks. I missed it. I actually did see the commercial, but I didn't see it air on TV. But for like 10 minutes of my time, it paid pretty good money. So I thought maybe there's something to this. And
just need a better microphone.
Well, actually, the last time I used that microphone, everything was fine. It's just in the past 2 weeks that it's gone to crap. So yeah, it's a sign that I need to buy a new microphone. Actually, I have a Blue Yeti. I've just never really used it.
Well, they're good. I've got a Blue Snowball.
Yeah. It's usually pretty good, but I might, until I get a better headset, I might revert back to using that. But for now, you'll just listen to me talking to the toilet. So, but I went off on a tangent there. But basically, yeah, I have gotten paid for my voice, which is quite interesting. So,
just reading the comments. Like Daniel says, he's got blue balls.
Blue balls, right? I can't see any of the comments, so.
Well, yes, I forgot to tell you. You need to call up a tab with the show on it. Mute the show and pop out the chat, and then you can interact with the audience. And
that would be nice and engaging, wouldn't it?
It would, and they can ask questions, or talk amongst themselves. Anna was saying before. Maya was saying before that she made an AMV of an anime, and 5 years later it had 6,000 views and copyrighted music.
Really? Okay. Well, I mean, that's just it. I don't know how YouTube really works now, like the algorithms. It's completely different than when I started, but I actually was able to figure out the old algorithm I would just put in lots of hashtags. I would put in misspelled hashtags because people type fast or whatever. So and I know at least 1 or 2 of my videos had over 100,000, 200,000 views, and I didn't know how.
How did you do it? I shall have to try that. I shall have to start doing misspelled hashtags. It could be quite risky, I imagine. In the days of 3 old dudes, I'd have been quite happy, but I mean, now I'm not so sure.
Right. I've not found such success since then, but it was, I think, only 2 of my videos. I'd say one of them was a tutorial about using a language learning program, completely unrelated to Japan. It was just about language learning, and the other one was
How to Talk by Shay Roberts.
Yeah, pretty much. But one of them was, do you remember a guy, he used to make YouTube videos. His name is Ryan Boundless. Do you remember that guy?
I was subscribed to him. That's one of the first people I've subscribed to, and you know, I had some communication with him. It seemed like a nice chap at the time.
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, I have nothing against Ryan. Actually, I followed his videos for a while, but he made this video that said English teaching in Japan sucks or something, and I understood exactly where he's coming from, because everyone who's taught English in Japan knows what he's talking about. But I made a response saying it doesn't suck, and I gave my reasons why, and that one actually kind of blew up, because I think in the title of the video, it was pretty much very similar to his, but I put a big bold characters "not," in there. Yeah. So when people would search for that, or even like in the recommended videos from his, you would see mine as a response. And it was kind of like the old school style of YouTube where people would make video responses, and that was actually one of my more successful ones. It wasn't necessarily a good video. I had to go through and edit out a lot of ums and ahs and rambles and stuff, but it still got a lot of hits, and I actually saved the audio from that, and I think I put it up as one of my
a podcast.
Yeah, just because it's still my true thoughts on the matter, even though it's been a few years. So yeah,
he's no longer in Japan, I believe, and I mean at one point he was in a quite successful relationship with his then Japanese girlfriend, but I don't think that's the case anymore.
Oh, really? Okay.
Anyway,
I haven't really kept up with his YouTube stuff. I don't think he even does it anymore. I think he's gone completely paywall, so, which is fine. More power to him. If he's getting money and making a living off of it, then good on him.
Yes, which is, I mean, it's something that I don't particularly aspire to on YouTube. I do this. This is my This is my hobby. Saturday afternoon, and my social life, really. I mean, everybody in the audience, most of them I've met, and
so what I was asking a little bit earlier was, so you started doing YouTube, and then you found the live streams, and so how did you actually end up meeting the other two old dudes, Dean and Robert?
And that was panic. Really, because I was invited onto a Christmas live stream by Rainer, along with about 10 other people. It was just random, and I thought, this is fun. I enjoyed it, and there were, as I say, 10 other people on. I mean, not all at once. It was all sort of moderated, and we were only on. Each person was on for like a minute or so, but. Watching the other people on, I thought, I'd quite like to do this, but I didn't have the cojones to do it on my own. And I thought, who can I do it with? And majority of the other people on it were like 20 years younger than me. So I thought, no, well, that's not going to work. I need to look for some people who are kind of my age and of my life experience, sort of thing. And Robert and Dean fitted the bill. They were they were on, and so I contacted them, and through my amazing powers of persuasion, I got them to do it, and we did our first hangout, I think in March 2013 or something like that, and lasted about 2 hours. We just waffled on for 2 hours.
Yeah, but you guys made it like a weekly thing, and you had guests on, and that was something I'd actually never seen. I'd seen like live streams on YouTube at that point, but I'd never seen like just a set chat show. I knew, who was it? Give Me a Break Man and Hiko Simon had their thing going, but that's about it, And so and you guys were all living outside of Japan. So I thought it was a cool perspective of just fans who enjoyed Japan and enjoyed Japanese YouTube to have this sort of chat show, and I thought that was a cool dynamic. Yeah,
I mean, it kind of like gained its own momentum and went went off at completely different tangents and into areas that perhaps I no longer wish to.
Well, that's part of growing as the channel. But what I never really knew what caused the end of it and what motivated you to do what you're doing now.
Well, basically, it had run its more or less run its course, and what I'm doing now was kind of like the idea I'd had for the Three Old Dudes in the beginning, but with 3 people. But it kind of, as I say, went off on its own tangent, which was good, and we had fun, and so on. But I think Dean particularly, was getting tired of doing it, and Robert, as he will attest, was moving on into other fields, and so we just kind of mutually decided that, yeah, okay, let's wrap it up. That I still wanted to go on. I still wanted to do what I'm doing now, and basically used it as a spring plank. That's Dutch. As a springboard. A springboard, for starting this show. So basically, the 1 week the Three Old Dudes finished after 5 years, and the next week this show started.
Okay, so it's pretty much sort of just a transition from Three Old Dudes to what you're doing now.
Yeah, one old dude, but I mean, I couldn't keep calling myself Simon Three Old Dudes, which is my name on Facebook and all social media and whatnot. Which is where I don't know if he's probably watching afterwards. I sent him the link, but where Mashu and Rena, who are one of our final guests on Three Old Dudes, Rena said, "Why don't you call it on your show Simon's Living Room, but use the old Showa period name for living room, Chanama." So Simon no Chanama, Simon's Living Room, because it's a cozy atmosphere, which is, why I haven't got my green screen at the moment is because my green screen is technically not fantastic, but quite a lot of my shows have this Showa period living room, Japanese living room in the background on the green screen, just to give that cozy feel.
But right now you have a really nice fall colors video loop going for those. This
is I mean, in honor of the podcast guest. This is near Nikko in Tochigi. Yeah. I'll go to another one. This is like a promotional video it's a golden triangle.
I was going to say it was at Kegon, but you did visit Nikko though, right?
No, I haven't. I mean, like I say, you have 2-3 weeks, but I've got like friends I want to visit, and I had like one day where I went to somewhere different to where I'd been before on this last trip, and all the other times I kind of went to places that I've been before. Right. Next time, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Nikko's to me still to this day, even 10 years later, for me, Nikko is still one of my favorite places on the planet. That I've been to. It's just so gorgeous there. And I feel lucky that it's only, less than 30 kilometers from my house. I can just go there anytime I want,
You lucky bastard.
Well, I mean, I was just hiking today. I didn't even find the entrance to the mountain I wanted to climb. I wanted to watch the sunset.
Oh dear.
Over this mountain. Then I was losing time, and I couldn't find the entrance to the trail. So just took a few photos, and then I said, okay, I'll come back tomorrow and figure it out. So it's actually part of one of my goals for this year is, for example, I really got into hiking once I came to Japan, maybe 7-8 years ago. And I caught the hiking bug, right? So I did a few YouTube videos of some of the mountains I climbed, but there's 100 famous mountains in Japan that hikers climb. They're called the Hyakumeizan, which is 100 famous mountains. And I've climbed about 5 of those. But even within Tochigi, where I live, there's 100, even 150 notable mountains. Wow. There's just mountains everywhere where I live. Yeah. So one of my goals this year is to climb as many of those as I can. I know I can't climb all 150 of them, but I've already climbed a few of them, so that's already taken care of. I do want to climb them again, but just I can climb most of them any time of the year. I mean, because they're not high enough to where they'll have snow, but a few of them are too cold and too icy to climb right now, so I have to wait. But the one I was going to today was only about 350 meters high, so it's not a big one.
Yes, it's not really a mountain. Not really a mountain, really, as such.
It's like a big hill.
It's a big hill.
But to get to the top, it's actually quite steep. Like I was looking at some of the reviews, and it's not an easy one to climb. It's just it's short. So that'll be my agenda for tomorrow, is to actually find where to climb up. If not, I'll just give myself a little bit extra daylight and just go through the wooded area that I almost went into at dusk tonight. So
yeah, I mean, I have been to one mountain or big hill in Japan, and I'm glad of that. I was in Kyoto, and I kind of like time to kill kind of stuff. I hadn't planned anything, and a YouTube friend couldn't make it, who I was supposed to meet up with. So I contacted that lady there. That one. And she's familiar. She's Japanese, but she lives in Hong Kong, but she's familiar with all the area. And she said, "Oh, go to Mount Kurama in Kyoto. There's a temple at the top." So I did, and it was very good. It was it was. I'm really glad that it was one of the things I did outside of the normal routine.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, here in Belgium, the highest point is about 600 meters, and you have to drive about 2 hours into the sort of French-speaking part near the Ardennes, and you've got this sort of hill. And in the Ardennes, in the south of Belgium, it's kind of sort of valleys and
yeah. Isn't Belgium sort of like just flatlands, lowlands?
In the north, where I am, it's kind of it's basically all flat up to the sea, and then it starts to get a little bit hilly, sort of further south. Doesn't really get seriously hilly. If you go beyond Belgium into Luxembourg, which is just sort of the next country down, slightly hillier there, and that's quite nice. I've been there.
Actually, yeah, I met on my recent trip to Thailand. I met someone from Belgium, and
oh, that's right.
Nice. Yeah. So shout out to Leslie. So. But I think she's back there now.
Yes, she said she was from. Yeah, she wasn't from Brussels, but I remember you saying. No. You went to Thailand, so I mean, I mean, I go to England obviously for my holidays to see my parents and so on for Christmas and summer, and I've been to Germany for a wedding, but I don't really, and I go to Japan, of course.
Right.
But I mean, do you often take holidays out of Japan? And what? I mean, you went to Thailand. Is that something where you thought, yeah, I really need to go there, or?
I try and take holidays outside of Japan as much as I can now, because Japan is now the normal for me. So of course, there are places in Japan I haven't been to that I still like to explore, but to travel to at least, especially Southeast Asia, but other Asian countries, while in Japan is so cheap, so I might as well take advantage of that. And I've developed a sort of traveling style over the past few years where I don't plan anything. Like I even made the decision to choose Thailand itself a few days before I booked the ticket.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I try and go in as blind as I can, because I guess I'm trying to recapture that magic that I felt when I first came here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
But I realize the older I get and the more I travel, while it is new, but I've done this before, so it's not as pristine and new as it was the very first time, if that makes any sense. So
yeah, I mean, once you've made that step, if you've never traveled before, and obviously it's a new experience, but once you've done the rounds of airports and train stations and hotels, it's the new bit. The new part is just what's beyond those a little bit.
Exactly. So when I stepped out of the airport in Chiang Mai, which is in North Thailand, everything looked very different, but it was still sort of familiarity. Like, okay, I've done this before, right? And but it really made me realize just how it was to be so new to a country. You know, I didn't speak any Thai. I didn't know any Thai. I know a few words now, but didn't know any Thai. I didn't. The culture is completely different than Japanese culture and American culture. So that was both refreshing and I wouldn't say intimidating, but it was just different to navigate through. You know, because you have to learn the social faux pas and things, but without the language, you kind of just have to read. You have to be able to read people. So
that's a bit tricky.
It's a bit tricky, but at the same time, to me that's fun. And I don't plan my trips. I have a basic idea of what I want to do, but I figure it out when I get there. And I find that really rewarding for traveling. Is I like solo travel, and I don't like to plan because everything's like an adventure at that point. You know. So
I mean, I solo travel because I have no other option. But generally, I plan. I mean, I don't plan visits to particular places much, but I do plan visits to particular people, and that's all carefully sort of pre-organized. So all my visits to Japan have been largely going from one person to another, and sort of in between. In the times I got left in between, I'll go and wander on my own to particular places. For example, in the second time I went to Kyoto, I had one day. That was the day I went to this mountain where I didn't have anybody to meet up with. But the second day, the other day was Tomoko Des came and we went out together. That was fun. So it was all kind of like structured in that way. I mean, which is good for me. I like that. I don't think I could do what you do and just sort of book tickets and think, right, I'm going, and not know the language. And
I love it though, man. To me, that's awesome. I love just not knowing where I'm going to stay that night. You know, so I like just figuring that stuff out. It's not for everybody. You're right, but. For me,
I mean, have you been anywhere in a group or with a friend or like that? Or
I went to South Korea for a week with my girlfriend at the time. This was 4 or 5 years ago, and that was an interesting experience because even though we went together, we didn't really plan on anything. We just went to Seoul and figured out what we wanted to do there. So it was very similar to what I do. It was just with one other person. But because neither of us had a set plan, it was easy to make something up on the fly. I have traveled with friends across America. Took like a 10-day road trip about 13 years ago. One of the friends I went with, she was really extremely opposite of me in terms of travel planning. Like she has to plan everything down to the minute almost, Oh,
wow.
And I just know from that, while the trip was fun, if we didn't hit any one of these certain deadlines that she had planned out, then it caused a lot of unnecessary fighting and drama. And I'm like, how is that any fun? You're supposed to just enjoy being with your friends and
take it as it comes, kind of thing, control freak kind of thing.
What got into my mind was I'd rather experience something new and figure something out to where no matter what I do, it's new and it's not disappointing, than to plan something and if something goes wrong, then be disappointed that I didn't fulfill that plan. If that makes any sense.
I mean, I just noticed a comment here from Maya. Oh my God, I can't deal with people who plan too much either. I mean, that being said, I mean, although quite often certainly my first trip to Japan and each of my trips. The second trip was pretty well cut and dried. I'm going to do it. The third trip was kind of like my friend in Yamaguchi said she couldn't see me, and this friend up here said she could. So that was my motivation for okay, let's go. And then I thought, what am I going to do while I'm there? And I've got to go and see Molly. I've got to go and see Tomoko and Victor, and and I planned it like that, and sort of mapped it out that kind of way. I can't just go and then, because I've had days there where I've not planned anything, and I think, what am I going to do? We're going to go. I end up wandering around the park.
Yeah, there is that factor there too. So I mean, it's a gamble. I mean, you could have, like, my first day in Thailand, I walked around Chiang Mai because I'd heard Chiang Mai was quite a nice city, and it is. It's a lovely city, but all you can really do there is just go sightseeing at the temples and whatnot, which is, they're great, they're lovely. But after that, and eat, Thai food at the night markets and stuff. So there's plenty of stuff to do there. But for me, I got all I could really out of Chiang Mai in one day. And I had planned, in the back of my mind planned, okay, I'll go from Chiang Mai to Pai, which is about
pie. Sorry, I'm doing my Homer Simpson. Pie.
Yeah, right. Which also, if you know anything about Japanese, pie is also a slang term for breasts as well. So
okay,
all the like buttons and souvenirs, like I love pie and everything. It's funny. So, but pie actually is quite a different vibe to it. It's really small. There's only 2,000 people that live in this really small town, but it's a lot of backpackers. Yeah, a lot of backpackers go through there. And when I went on this trip, I only brought a backpack and what I could fit in that backpack. I didn't bring any suitcase or anything. I just, what I could put on my back, in a small backpack at that, not one of the huge ones, just a small backpack, a few change of clothes, and went there, and it's just a completely different vibe to it. And so I loved it so much that even though I'd planned to stay for 2 days and then go back to Chiang Mai, I just said, nah, I'll just stay in Pai until my last day, and then go to Chiang Mai for a night and then catch the plane the next day. So I changed my plans on the fly, and a lot of the pictures that I took of like the canyon and all that, those are just plans I just made up at the spot, So I'm like, oh, why not go here, So
a new badge for Pi is from Daniel is 3.1415. I kind of had that feeling in that one place, that one day where I had a free day, and I decided to sort of go outside of the main routes, and I went to this place called Onomichi in Hiroshima Prefecture, and I'd just seen vague pictures of it on Booking.com, and thought, well, it looks all right, and it was really nice. I was tempted to actually, booking in advance. I had all my places booked, so I couldn't really. So say, oh, bugger it, I'm not going. But I would have quite liked to have stayed a day longer in Onomichi. But they have 25 temples on this hill next to all the little houses. But I got bored after 3. But the little streets on the houses were nice. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, what I say is, once you've seen one temple or shrine in Japan, at least, you've seen them all. There's a few that stand out. But for the most part, they're all very similar. So, I'll still check them out, but I don't spend a lot of time at the shrines and temples anymore, just because I've seen so many now,
Remy's being clever with his keyboard. I can't put the pi symbol there. You need to now do a boobs emoji next to it, because that's what it says.
Pretty much, yeah.
So we're getting. I mean, for me, my show. I don't know how long your podcast goes on, but mine's getting sort of towards the end. Is there anything else you'd like to ask?
Well, Just you plan on coming back, of course, right?
That's the. I mean, yeah. I mean, the previous years, that was always the idea, and I kind of like saved up overtime. So, but I've used up a lot of overtime now, and I've got to start from scratch. So it all depends on how much overtime I can make this year,
right?
Because I'm allowed to keep it and use it as holiday time. And financially, it would be probably sort of just doable because I've been using savings so far. I mean, I don't make enough money with my job to build up a reserve, enough of a reserve to do it regularly,
Right.
to fly regularly. So all those factors play in, and then visiting the various people that I want to visit, I have to sort of organise that and see when's the best time. I mean, that's been the determining factor in previous visits is sort of when these ladies have been able to,
Yeah. Hey, which seasons have you visited Japan in?
The nice ones, like late fall and early spring.
Yeah, those are good times.
Yeah.
This summer is really beautiful, but it gets so hot here now. So even for me, it reminds me of home when the summers here are really similar, humid and hot. So
well, yeah, it actually gets like that in Belgium as well. I mean, not perhaps to the level of humidity, but in this living room here in the summer in Belgium, you're getting like 38 degrees sat in the living room.
Wow.
It's like
that's horrendous. Yeah, 40 anything close to 40 degrees is quite miserable, right? So yeah, and I guess usually what I ended off with is any sort of thing you'd like to say to the audience, my audience or your audience as well.
Well, I'd like to say to my audience, see you next week. It's just, I mean, the regular viewers. I spam them relentlessly with the links to watch, and I think some of them do come of their own accord, which I'm very grateful for. I'd like to say to Shay's audience, you're very welcome to come and join me next week as well. Next week, I'm trying to get a guest for next week. He said, "I'd love to be on your show." It's Light Japan for those in the audience who know him. He messages me saying, "I'd love to be on the show." I message back saying, "Great, 12th of January this time." And I don't hear from him again. So it's like I'm trying to get him on the show. So hopefully next week it'll be Light Japan on the show. And otherwise it's me, and I may go for a wander like I want to do if I can't get a guest. And the week after that, it is, I think, Anna and Maya, who may still be in the audience. They recently started a channel. They're friends of Kaz, Kaz, the photographer, Kaz Takahashi. Yeah, they're friends of his. So they may be coming on the show the week after. So I'm gradually sort of getting new guests. So and thank you for having me on the podcast. Are you doing another one next week?
I'm planning actually. I asked Remy if he wanted to be on about a month or two ago, and he said yes, but we might be working something out very soon. So still waiting on his final answer for next week. But if not, then I mean that's fine. I have a few guests in the pipeline. So yeah. Good. But anyways, yeah. Thank you, Simon. I'll put all the links to whatever social media and of course the YouTube channel. That's the most important.
Once this is uploaded, I'll put in those in the comments, in the description, and also in the end cards and all that business. So for you, you sent Remino sent you a reply during the show, so you'll have to look back through the comments.
Yes, I will check, because I haven't actually been checking the comments up until recently. But if you send it on Twitter, Remy, I'll check it very soon. So, but anyway, thank you, Simon, very much. Glad to have you on. You're welcome back anytime, and thank you very much for inviting me into your tea room, your living room.
This is my real living room. Yeah, no
Yeah,
green
that's the
screen.
real one, not the green screen one, right?
Yeah. Good. Okay. Thanks, Shay, and I will see you all hopefully next week. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.